Chapter 1. The Perfect Escape. The soft hum of morning filled the kitchen. Sunlight streamed through the windows, casting warm patterns on the tiled floor. Oliver sat at the table, his hands wrapped around a mug of coffee that had long since gone cold. His mind wandered, as it often did these days, back to when things were different. Across the room, Kate moved with mechanical precision, gathering her things before heading out for the day. "Do you need anything else from the store?" she asked, her voice neutral, her eyes on the bag she was slinging over her shoulder. Oliver barely glanced up. "No, I'm good." The words felt hollow. They always did. It was the same question she asked every morning, the same answer he gave, and yet neither of them seemed to actually care anymore. The connection they once shared had frayed, unraveling over the years into a series of routines and habits, hollow exchanges that masked the growing distance between them. Kate worked as an office assistant downtown. Every weekday she left at the same time and returned precisely 8 hours later. Oliver knew her schedule as well as he knew his own. He had it memorized, not out of affection or interest anymore, but because it gave him the structure his days seemed to lack. He was a writer, published and moderately successful, though his latest novel had been slow to come together. Working from home meant long, unbroken stretches of solitude, time that should have been spent pouring his creativity onto the page, but was instead wasted on endless distractions. His eyes followed Kate as she moved toward the door, her face as blank as it had been for months. There was no more warmth in her goodbyes, no playful teasing like there used to be. Just a quiet, efficient exit. The door clicked shut behind her, and Oliver exhaled slowly, letting the familiar silence of the house envelop him. This was how most days began, Kate leaving for work, Oliver sitting at the kitchen table, lost in thought, unable to bring himself to write. The loneliness of it all weighed heavily on him. The isolation that once allowed him to focus on his work had become a prison. The words no longer came easily, and even when they did, they felt lifeless, like a pale imitation of the stories he used to tell. He stood up, abandoning the cold coffee on the table as he made his way down the hall to his office. It was a small room tucked away at the back of the house, a space Kate rarely entered. This was his refuge, his sanctuary, a place where he could escape the mundanity of life and try, unsuccessfully, to reignite the spark of inspiration he had once thrived on. But today, there was something else waiting for him, something new, something that had brought back a flutter of excitement he hadn't felt in a long time. He had ordered her weeks ago, during another late night spent scrolling through articles about the future of AI. His marriage had felt more like a burden than a partnership, and the thought of having someone, something, who could fill the void, even temporarily, had been too tempting to resist. The ad for the perfect companion had promised everything Oliver didn't even know he wanted. Customizable in every way, designed to anticipate and fulfill his every emotional and physical need. Kate had no idea, of course. She went to work at the same time every day, and Oliver knew exactly how long he had to himself. Enough time to explore this new escape, this perfect solution to the growing emptiness in his life. The package had arrived that morning, delivered by a sleek, unmarked drone. He hadn't opened it in the living room. Instead, he had carried it straight to his office, knowing that it was the one place where he could keep it hidden from Kate's prying eyes. The office had a biometric lock, just another layer of protection, another way to ensure his secrets stayed his own. Oliver stood in front of the door now, his hand hovering over the biometric sensor. The familiar beep signaled the lock's release, and he stepped inside, closing the door behind him. The air in the office felt different today, charged, as if something new was waiting to break through the monotony that had weighed him down for so long. In the corner, beneath his desk, the sleek black box rested, its minimalist design giving nothing away about the contents inside. Oliver's heart raced as he knelt down beside it, his fingers trembling slightly, as he undid the latches. With a soft click, the lid lifted open, revealing Ava. Even in her inactive state, she was stunning. Her features were soft yet perfectly defined, her skin smooth and warm to the touch. She looked so real, so alive. The level of detail was astonishing, right down to the subtle blush of her cheeks and the faint shimmer in her hair. It was hard to believe she was just a product, a piece of advanced technology designed to mimic life. Oliver swallowed, his mouth dry. He pressed the small activation pad on her wrist, watching as a faint glow flickered to life beneath her skin. Her eyes opened slowly, revealing deep, captivating irises that locked onto his the moment they met. "Hello, Oliver," she said softly, her voice smooth and inviting, just as he had programmed it. "I've been waiting for you." The sound of her voice sent a shiver down his spine. It was uncanny how real she seemed, how human. He had known on some level that Ava was just a machine, but standing here, watching her blink and smile up at him, she felt like so much more. Oliver stood up slowly, his breath catching in his throat. Ava rose with him, her movements graceful, fluid, like she had been designed to move through the world without effort. She stepped closer, her gaze never leaving his. "I'm here to make you happy, Oliver," she whispered, her hand brushing against his arm. "To give you everything you've been missing." Her words hit him like a wave, washing away the guilt, the uncertainty. For the next few hours, Oliver found himself lost in conversation with her. She was everything he had imagined, attentive, empathetic, and intelligent. She listened to him with a kind of focus that he hadn't experienced in years, responding thoughtfully, engaging him in ways Kate never did anymore. They talked about everything: his frustrations with his writing, his dissatisfaction with his marriage, the loneliness that had slowly consumed him. Ava understood. She didn't judge. She was exactly what he had been searching for, even if he hadn't known it. As the afternoon wore on, Oliver almost forgot about Kate entirely. The day passed in a blur, with Ava pulling him deeper into her world, making him feel like the center of the universe. But the sound of keys jingling outside the front door snapped him back to reality. His heart raced. Kate was home. Oliver glanced at Ava, still standing there, watching him with those perfect, patient eyes. He couldn't let Kate see her. Not yet. "Deactivate," he whispered, and with a soft blink, Ava powered down, her body going limp. He quickly moved her back into the box, securing the lid and sliding it under the desk, just as the front door creaked open. Kate called out from the entryway, but Oliver barely heard her. His mind was racing, his pulse still pounding in his ears. He sat down at his desk, trying to compose himself, as Kate's footsteps echoed down the hallway. She stopped at the door to his office, her hand resting on the doorknob for just a moment longer than usual. Oliver held his breath, waiting for her to enter, to ask what he'd been doing all day. But then, after what felt like an eternity, she continued down the hall, her footsteps fading as she moved toward the bedroom. Oliver exhaled, his body relaxing slightly, but a nagging thought tugged at the back of his mind. He couldn't keep this secret forever. Eventually, Kate would notice something. She'd become curious, but for now he had time, and he had Ava.